The Toronto Raptors have gone the last few seasons without a reliable point guard coming off of the bench, but this season they might have two. But if everyone is healthy for this team, which one should be prioritized as far as playtime is concerned? Let's get into it. This is Amateur Sports, the YouTube channel completely dedicated to Toronto Raptors content in videos just like this. So make sure you drop a like if you enjoy and help us on the road to 18,000 subs by subscribing to the channel to keep up to date with all this great Raptors content. And keep a lookout because Amateur merch drops tomorrow, November 29th, of Friday, and you will not want to miss out on the shirts, hats, and stickers that are getting released. But today's video, we're focusing in completely on the battle for, well, it should have been the battle for the backup point guard position. Then it became the battle for the starting point guard position. And now it's back to being the battle for the backup point guard position. And that sounds a little bit confusing, but allow me to explain. The Raptors have been dealing with injuries all throughout the season. That is especially the case for Immanuel Quickley, who is the starting point guard for the Raptors when everybody is healthy. So when Immanuel Quickley is healthy, he's the starting point guard, and you have two guys battling for those backup spots off the bench. But Immanuel Quickley's been injured this season, so then it became a battle for starting. But because neither of these players have really seized their opportunity as of yet, Scottie Barnes has been moved into that starting point guard role for the Raptors. So it's back to a battle for those bench positions. So it's a bit of a battle to see who is going to be getting the higher amount of minutes and if one can pass the other. And of course, the battle for this backup point guard spot is between Davion Mitchell and Jamal Shead. And the fact that neither of them are starting right now is kind of an indictment against them because neither of them have really seized their opportunities. It's funny how linked these players are because they were actually kind of acquired in the same trade made by the Raptors. Honestly, one of the best trades I've ever seen. Like, this trade isn't going to move mountains necessarily, but considering what the Raptors gave up versus what they got, it's truly remarkable. We'll go back to it here. The Raptors had Jalen McDaniels, who was a dead contract, terrible player. They didn't want, probably were considering buying out. They trade him to the Sacramento Kings, and they get Davion Mitchell, a backup point guard they absolutely needed, the 45th overall pick in the draft, which they used on Jamal Shead, the other player we're talking about in this video. They also got a Portland Trail Blazers second-round pick for this year, 2025, this season, 2025. And then the penalty was taking on the Sasha Vezenkov contract, which they bought out in the end for $0. So basically, they gave a player they probably would have bought out for Davion Mitchell, Jamal Shead, and a second-round pick for the terrible Portland Trail Blazers this season. A very good position to be in right now, and it gave competition for the backup spots for the Raptors, which just had not been claimed by anybody for years. Like, for years, the Raptors just had no point guard coming off the bench because Delano Banton wasn't reliable enough. Malachi Flynn was nowhere near reliable enough, and that position wasn't really addressed in any other way. So here we are, two capable point guards, but who is going to seize their opportunity? Because like I said, neither of them have really done it as of yet. Davion Mitchell comes in as a more experienced player. He's 26 years old. This is his fourth season in the NBA, and he still hasn't quite lived up to the billing as the 9th overall pick that he was from the Sacramento Kings. This season for the Raptors, it's been a little bit down for the player. He's averaging 7.3 points per game, 2.4 rebounds. I will say his assist numbers have gone up very impressively, up to 5.6 for the Raptors, but the efficiency numbers are a place of big concern. Part of the reason that he was drafted 9th overall by the Sacramento Kings was his impressive run with Baylor all the way to a national championship. But it was not just his amazing defense that's given him the nickname Off Night, because when he guards you, you have an off night because he's such a good defender. Maybe one of the best nicknames in all of sports. But on top of that great defense, he shot the ball really well in his final season of college basketball. And the Kings were hoping to get that shooting out of him in the NBA. That didn't quite materialize, and if anything, it's regressed this season for the Raptors. He's averaging less than 40% shooting from the field and only 29% shooting from three, which gives him a true shooting percentage of .487. Yes, been unimpressive offensively for Mitchell. It's been great on defense. He's still a fantastic defender. I've been impressed by maybe some strides taken in the playmaking department, but the fact of the matter is, like, you just can't have games where a point guard coming off the bench getting the more significant amount of minutes right now. Davion Mitchell is getting more minutes than Shead right now. There's just games where he's not making a single field goal. That just can't really happen from my perspective here. So the other player that could take on this position for the Raptors is Jamal Shead. As I said, recent 45th overall pick by the Raptors. Rookie season here, 22 years old. Perhaps a little bit more potential to work with. And Jamal Shead has been probably impressive relative to expectations. Another point guard who is a bit undersized and was known in college for his fantastic defense. And the difference between Jamal Shead and Davion Mitchell, Jamal Shead did not have that shooting in college that made him potential lottery pick. He went 45th overall. Granted, he went lower because he was only offered a guaranteed contract by the Raptors. There was maybe, or reports suggest, a dozen teams were looking at him earlier in the draft, but weren't going to give him a guaranteed contract, a standard NBA deal that the Raptors were going to give him. So he decided to pass on those teams and go to the Raptors at 45th overall. Like I said, it's about as I expected this season. It's a player who doesn't offer you a ton offensively, and it's kind of showcasing that. 5.1 points per game, 1 rebound, 3.2 assists, and the field goal percentage down at 37.6. Three-point percentage right near Davion Mitchell at 28.9, and a true shooting percentage all the way down at 45.2. So neither player has been really efficient. Both players have been very good defensively. So where should the resources from the Raptors be put for the rest of this season? Well, it's a bit of a complicated question here because both of these numbers here, the sets of numbers here offensively, are not very good. I said at the start, you have reliable backup point guards here. The defense kind of makes up for it, but you'd want a little bit better. In the end, it's a rebuild year for the Raptors. They might end up tanking. I'm not sweating it too much, but looking at two sets of statistics here as we compare them, there's quite a bit to be desired. The issue that I have here is that these statistics are relatively similar. Mitchell's averaging more points and assists. He's also playing more minutes. The issue that I have here is that for Jamal Shead, this is about what I expected. When the Raptors drafted him, the concern I had was how is he going to bend the defense? How is he going to make the defense care about him? And honestly, he's shooting better from three than I actually thought he was. But for Davion Mitchell, this is extremely disappointing. Raptors fans have been calling him out on social media as of late. They've been really disappointed with the way he's playing offensively. I think it kind of hit its tipping point in the Detroit Pistons game where Raptors have the ball, less than a minute and a half left. They're up by 2. And for some reason, the play they run is Davion Mitchell holds the ball for the entire shot clock, then tries to beat Isaiah Stewart by straight line running to the rim, taking a tough layup, ends up missing. Raptors end up losing the game. My issue here is that Mitchell actually took further strides as a three-point shooter last season. His first 2 seasons in the NBA, he did not shoot the ball well from 3 with the Kings, which is maybe part of the reason they wanted to move on from him in the end. But he shot 32% in his first and second seasons. And then his third season in the NBA, he shot 36% from 3. A much bigger step up. I was hoping he had found something and the Raptors could channel that a bit more. But the three-point percentage at this point, 19 games into the season, would be the worst in any season, like I said, of his NBA career so far. So I think when you look at these numbers here, if you're prioritizing winning basketball games, I think Davion Mitchell is the more experienced player, of course. I think Davion Mitchell still is the better defender. And I think when you look at these efficiency numbers here, Davion Mitchell has more of a platform to improve himself because we know he can do better than this because we have seen him do better than this. For Jamal Shead, like I said, this is about what I expected. And honestly, if anything, the three-point shooting might be a little bit better than expected. So for this season in particular, if I'm trying to win games, Davion Mitchell might be the guy. But are the Raptors trying to win games? Will they be trying to win games? Where would you rather be putting your resources? That is a big question that needs to be answered. Because Davion Mitchell's in the final year of his rookie contract. The Raptors will be on the hook to paying him as a restricted free agent if they want to keep him. But that will be an if based on the way things are going right now. I know this player can improve. And I know he's the better player compared to Jamal Shead at the moment. He's just a lot more poised out there. But Davion Mitchell's 26. He's close to entering his prime years at this point. Jamal Shead's 22. And I think there's promise there. He's already, shooting decently from 3 compared to what I thought he'd be shooting. And perhaps, some more time in the G League with the Raptors 905, getting additional reps there is going to help him. But where do the priorities lie this season? I think there is a major case to make for the Raptors. Look, that trade that they made with the Kings, getting Davion Mitchell, a guy you could use your back pointer, was great, but he's not performing to the level that you'd expect. We're 19 games in, so that can change, of course. But I think there's teams out there who could be interested in the level of defense that Davion Mitchell brings. I think there's teams out there that could have interest in that. And I think there's teams that could have interest in that on an expiring contract towards the trade deadline. So I'm looking at the two sets of players here. I'm fine with both right now. Raptors not a winning team, so I can, forgive some of the inefficient numbers. But I think when we really look at things here, when we really look at this team moving forward, I think there's ability as a long-term backup point guard option here for Jamal Shead. I think there's a rotation caliber player here as the team hopefully starts to get better over the next few years. So where Toronto's priorities lie, if it is rebuilding, maybe not right now, but I think at some point there should start to be a shift. Because if Mitchell was playing well, he would still be starting. Like the Raptors start Jacoby Walter yesterday against the New Orleans Pelicans and put Barnes at point guard rather than having Abaji at shooting guard, Barrett at small forward, Barnes at power forward, and Mitchell starting. Like Mitchell's been as unimpressive enough this season that even without Immanuel Quickley here, they are still not going to him as the starter. So, it was Mitchell's spot to lose. And I think at this point, I don't think he's quite lost it, but based on the priorities for the Raptors this season, it might be worth having a look at Jamal Shead getting the priority as the backup point guard for this team. I certainly wouldn't mind that, and I think that there is still a possibility of getting some assets from Davion Mitchell in a trade before his contract expires at the end of the season. Still a whole lot of season to go. Davion Mitchell can turn it around, and at that point, maybe my thoughts change on him, and I say, yeah, go with this guy. Having 3 point guards would be fine moving forward as well, but for the time being, maybe we start to see a little bit more Jamal Shead. I don't think I'd mind that. Would you? Let me know your thoughts and opinions on what I talked about in this video in the comments down below. That's all for today. Drop a like if you did enjoy. Make sure you subscribe to Amateur Sports for more Raptors content, and check out the Amateur merch dropping tomorrow. I have a video coming out at 7 p.m. Eastern time showcasing all of the merch and how you can have access to it. Thanks so much. I'll see you again next time.